Can you do EC if your baby is in daycare? This is a question I get asked all the time by you guys, and I wanted to take a minute today to make a video specifically about this topic because I want to encourage you and empower you to consider doing elimination communication with your baby, even if you are going to have to go back to work. And I know so many of you do have to go back to work, whether you want to or not. I do know that it is not always an option for you to just stay home with your babies. I am certainly in that process myself. So my name is Heather. If you don't know me, I go by the Architect Mama here on YouTube. I am an architect, an entrepreneur, and a mother of 2 under 3. I have a 3-year-old son and a 14-month-old baby girl. I am also the creator behind the readyfrombirth.ec Instagram page, where I talk all about elimination communication daily and how you can start potty training your baby from birth. So if you want to know more about this topic, make sure you go follow me over there and hit the subscribe button here on YouTube if you haven't already. All right, so let's get into it. Like I said, this is a question I get all the time. Can I do EC with my baby, potty train from birth, if I'm going to have to go back to work? Let me start with telling you our story. So Clay, my partner, he actually had 6 weeks paid paternity leave because he was living in New Jersey at the time. And I was living in Pennsylvania, and I did not have any paid leave whatsoever. So I was only able to afford to take 8 weeks of time, 4 of which were paid by my company that I was with at the time, which was very generous. But I only had 8 weeks. And so at 5 weeks, we decided to give EC a try. We were attempting to traditionally potty train our then 2-year-old son. He had just turned 2 at the time, and it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. And so we thought, okay, there has to be a better way. I had read about elimination communication. I'd read the Go Diaper Free book by Andrea Olson while I was pregnant with my daughter. And around 5 weeks, we had started potty training our son, and we said, you know what, let's just try it. Let's see what happened. So Clay, my partner, only had 1 week of time left before he went back to work. And I had 3 at that point. So we thought, okay, let's just see what happens. And from the moment we took our daughter's diaper off and set her on the potty, she peed right away. She loved it. It was so easy. We were looking at our 2-year-old son like, why is this so hard with you when our baby just naturally got it? So we just kept doing it. We said, you know what? We're just going to keep trying this. We're going to keep going as long as it's working for us. If it starts to feel untenable, we can't do it anymore, it's just becoming too much, we'll stop. Well, we never looked back. It's been amazing. Everything just clicked, and it's been so easy for us, and that is why I love teaching you guys about how to do this too, because if I can do it, if we can do it in our super busy family where both of us are working, we also have a toddler who's only a 2-year age gap from our daughter, we've been able to make it work, and I know that you can too. And that's why I'm here talking about it, because I want to support and encourage you and cheer you on and give you all of the tools and resources you need to be able to do this if you want to do it with your baby. All right, so let's talk about some strategies that you can use to send your baby to daycare if you're doing EC. And it all comes down to communication, okay? I want you to have a real, honest conversation with your child's care provider and tell them what you're doing with your baby. If you've started doing EC with them while you're home on maternity leave, if you are lucky enough to have that, because God bless us, in the USA, we do not have that as a federal right. Not all women even have a week that is paid or even unpaid. I think the law is that only women who work for companies with more than 50 employees, so certainly not all of them, as many companies are very small, even have access to the FMLA Act, which does not pay you but only preserves your job after you go back to work. I could make a whole nother video about that topic, so we'll just leave that there for now. But if you are lucky enough to have any amount of leave, start EC with your baby before they're going to go back to care. And when they do, you're going to want to have that conversation with your child's care provider and explain to them, we're doing elimination communication with our baby. Here's what that means. It means that we are listening for their cues, offering the potty at strategic times throughout the day according to our baby's known patterns and rhythms, and we are responding to their cues when they're giving them and taking their diaper off, offering them the potty, and giving them the chance to go do their business, pee and poo in the potty before we're putting their diaper back on. It doesn't have to be complicated. And I want you to emphasize for the child's care provider that this is a win-win for everyone. If they are willing to try to do ECO with your baby and honor and respect the way that you're doing things at home and try to continue that with them while they're in their care, your baby is going to be happier. They're going to cry less. They're going to feel more supported. And a happier baby that is not crying as much is going to result in a less stressful environment for that caregiver. So if it's a nanny in your home and it's a 1-to-1 ratio, or maybe you have multiple kids and it's like a 1-to-2 or 1-to-3, even 1-to-4 ratio, same deal. You're just going to want to communicate with that care provider. Maybe it's your mom or dad, like a grandparent. Have this conversation with them. Explain your baby's specific cues, their specific rhythms, and the general process that your baby is used to. Now, in a traditional daycare facility environment, I think the ratios may vary from state to state, but I know in Pennsylvania, where I live, the ratio is 1-to-4 for an infant. So that's obviously a very different ratio than 1-to-1 or 1-to-2, which is common in the home environment. We have our kids in care with an au pair who lives with us. So we do basically have a live-in nanny who lives with us and takes care of the kids 40 to 45 hours a week while myself and my partner are at work. So in a daycare provider, it is going to be harder for those caregivers to be able to successfully get your child to the potty, even if they're able to recognize their signal that they need to go. And I want to emphasize that that's okay, because just like at home, you want to focus on the communication part more so than the outcome. What's really important is that you are listening for your baby's cues, acknowledging them. You say, oh, hey, I see it's, you need to go. It's potty time. I'm taking you now. So you're acknowledging verbally and visually to your baby that you see them, you hear them, and you are responding to them. And then you take them, you get their diaper off, and you offer. And maybe they pee or poop, and maybe you missed and they already went in their diaper. But that's okay. The association that you're trying to build here is that you want them to signal, they want you to acknowledge them, to hear them and receive that, and then you're going to offer. So the more you can consistently do those three things, hear them, respond, and offer, the more your baby is going to build up their ability to anticipate that opportunity and wait for the opportunity to go in the potty. And so that's what we're focusing on here, is the response and taking action, versus the caregiver just, oh, the baby's crying, they're signaling, they're making the signals that I know that they have, and they're just ignoring them. Because what we don't want to do is ignore the baby's signals and teach them that you're not going to be heard, you're not going to be listened to, we're not going to give you an opportunity to go and do your business in the way that you naturally want to do, which is in some sort of receptacle away from your body, as you are programmed to do. And they're going to have to override their natural instinct to do that in a hygienic way and learn to go in their diaper. And so the reason that traditional potty training, so a 2 or 3-year-old, is so difficult is because we have trained them to pee and poop in their diaper by not responding to their cues that they're naturally born with as an infant and a newborn. Okay, so how can you best set up your caregiver for success with EC? I want you to make sure that after you have that conversation and you've clearly communicated your expectations, how you do things at home, maybe send them with a little written note, maybe a 1-pager. I've shared this over on my Instagram, what I share with both my au pair as well as my mom when my mom takes care of my kids when I'm traveling. So you might want to send them just a little 1-pager that says, like, this is my baby's current strongest cue. Maybe they cry a certain way, or they look at the potty, or they pat their diaper, any of those things. Whatever your baby's cue is, just write it down. So whoever's taking care of your child that day, if they are in a daycare facility, can see that. They can just at a glance, okay, that's what they need. And you can also give them kind of an easy like cheat sheet schedule. So let's say your baby frequently pees or poos right after a nap, right after a snack or a meal, right after a milk or a bottle feed. Any of those like kind of obvious, easy times that there's a transition involved, that would be the perfect time to offer the potty. So you can let them know, like, hey, after snack time or after they get a bottle, offer the potty. Or even while you're giving them a bottle, use a lap potty, use a top hat potty, and allow them to pee and poop directly into the potty while you're feeding them. If you haven't seen it already, go check out my video, How to Start EC with a Newborn, 0 to 8 weeks. That explains all about the relationship between feeding your baby, milk, breastfeeding, and their need to pee and poop. In those first 8 weeks, your baby is going to be pretty much peeing and pooping every time you feed them. And so using a lap potty makes that whole process really easy. But if you haven't seen that, go check that out. Today, I want to focus on with EC with another caregiver. So in addition to sending the kind of like the guide for the caregiver written down, you also want to prepare them with gear. So instead of just sending your baby to daycare with diapers and wipes like most people do, you could also send them with a small potty that they could keep there and have in your baby's cubby available for them, so that when they do change their diaper or they do have these specific times after naps or meal times, they can just offer the potty, put the diaper back on, and keep going. And so you want to make it really easy for them to succeed, and setting them up with the gear that they need is going to help. So yeah, you might have to buy a second potty to keep at the daycare, but we're talking like $20 to $30. It's really not that much of an investment. But that's going to help the daycare provider be able to offer the potty so that your baby can have a greater chance of success with EC in that environment. All right, so let's say that you have a daycare provider that just has no interest in helping you out with this, basically thinks that you are a little bit loony and kind of a crunchy mama and wants nothing to do with it. First of all, if that is the case, I would encourage you to consider looking for another care provider, because this person or this organization is clearly not, if they're not being respectful of your wishes as a parent in this capacity, they may also not be being respectful of your wishes on other topics concerning your baby's well-being. But I also know that it's not always possible to just up and change daycare providers, especially like here in Philadelphia where I live. The wait lists for care providers are really long, sometimes months or even years. So it's not always easy to change care providers, even if you would like to. So in that situation, I would say that if you are in a situation where they just are not going to even consider EC in that environment at all, remember that when your baby is home with you, you can practice EC full time when you and your baby are together. So that means consistently, listening for, acknowledging, and responding to their cues, consistently offering the potty at those specific times that we talked about that are unique to your baby, and also doing more diaper-free time when they are home with you. You can do diaper-free time even with a really little baby, and that's really great for two reasons. One, it gives them the opportunity to practice holding it and waiting for the potty opportunity to do their business. And two, when they do have an accident, and they will have an accident outside of the potty opportunities and they're not wearing a diaper, it allows them the opportunity to feel wet, to feel what wet feels like. And when we put our babies in diapers, especially disposable diapers, they're really, really good at wicking away the moisture and reducing the experience of the accident. And so when that happens, your baby almost like doesn't realize that they're wetting themselves, and they're not getting that natural negative association of like, oh, I had an accident, that didn't feel good. And so when you do diaper free time with your young baby at home, you're giving them the opportunity to learn from those misses and learn like, oh, I didn't really like that feeling. Next time I'm gonna try to recognize that and wait. And they can do that. Babies are way more capable than most people give them credit for. So if your baby is in a kind of does not care daycare environment, then Make sure that you are being really intentional with your time with them at home, consistently practicing EC at home, whether you're at home in your own environment or you're out and about, you're grocery shopping, you are at a friend's house, you're at church, wherever you may be. Again, what I want you to focus on is the communication aspect more so than the outcome. Whether you catch or miss the pee or the poo is not the point. We are not here specifically to save diapers. Will you save diapers and save money because you're not buying more diapers and washing more diapers? Absolutely, you will. That is a side effect of doing EC. But the reasons for doing EC go so far beyond that, and it's all about the communication. It's all about your baby experiencing what it's like to let you know that they need something, have you respond to them and acknowledge them and do something about it, and then offer the potty so that they can be successful and have that opportunity to do their business in a way that feels good. And it's about pee and poop, yes, but it's also about so many more things. It's about the secure attachment with you that they're developing. It's about your connection with your baby that's going to be strengthened by having this early, deep communication with them. And it's ultimately about their sense of self-worth and the power of their own voice. These are things that are going to have ripple effects throughout their entire life. So focus on the communication, let the outcome go, and you're going to have much better results. And remember, even if your baby is in full-time care with an outside provider or a nanny in your home, they're there for, let's say worst case, maybe about like 45 hours. But I wrote this down, sorry, I'm checking my notes. There are 168 hours in a week. So even if they're with the outside provider for 45 of those, that's still only about 25% of the time that they're not with you. Even if they're sleeping and they're at home, they're still with you, they're still under your care. If they wake up in the middle of the night and they cry out and they're signaling to you that they need to use the potty, do something. Like, you heard them, do something about it. And so that consistency with them when they're not with that care provider is going to reinforce for them what you really want them to do. And it's not going to matter that there was part of the time that they, were not getting that level of responsiveness. So do what you can to set your daycare provider or your nanny up for success, but also know, even if they're not doing it, it is not the end of the world, and you can absolutely still do EC with success. It's going to be entirely worth it. All right, so thank you so much for watching to this point. If you're still here, if you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you want to learn more about EC and you want daily content about this, go follow me over on Instagram at readyfrombirth.ec. And if you're interested, I also have a community where we meet live every other week with me and other women who are doing EC. And we have live coaching, live group coaching, as well as the opportunity to share and connect and encourage each other on this journey. All right, so I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.